Right, we're going to start with the first lesson, and it's called Using Factors to Multiply. You will notice that I'm going to talk about what you need to know beforehand with each lesson. So what's very important here is that you know what is factors. And I would like to remind you to go back to the videos that I've been doing already, where I was explaining factors to you. You will also notice me referring to composite and prime numbers during this lesson. I also did lessons on that, so go back to those lessons if you forgot. And then, very important, you need to know your tables. If you don't know your tables with multiplication, that's going to cause you to make unnecessary mistakes, and then you will not be able to get the marks that you deserve during tests or exams. Okay, so what I have here is an example from the DBE book. It's a long method, but we are going to find a shorter way of doing these sums. But what is very important is that we follow the method, which refers to using factors to multiply. Okay, I'm just going to read through this example with you, and then I'm going to do two examples to show you the method. Okay. Right, so what we are doing with multiplication in term 2, we're going to multiply big numbers with one another. Here we have a 3-digit number multiplying with a 2-digit number. We will also work with bigger numbers than that, like 4-digit numbers multiplying with 3 digits. Okay, but we're going to use this as an example to get to know this method. So what it says is 547 times 42. So we're going to take the second number, this 2-digit number 42, and we're going to break it down into its factors. And so you can think of factors numbers that multiply with one another that equals 42. But let me just go back to an easier example if you can't remember what factors are. So let me talk about the factors of 12. Okay, so that means the numbers that can divide into 12 without a remainder. Okay, so if I have to list all the factors of 12, it will start with 1, because 1 can divide into any number. 1 divides into 12, and then you ask yourself, how many times does 1 go into 12 or divide into 12? That will be 12 times. Then the next number that can go into divide into 12 will be 2, and then you ask yourself, what times 2 equals 12? That is 6. And the next number that can divide into 12 is 3. What times 3 equals 12? That is 4. So you will notice that I've worked from the outside inwards. Okay, so I started with 1 and 12 on the outside, and then I ended with 3 and 4 on the inside. So these are all the factors of 12. So if I say 3, its partner is 4. Okay, so 3 times 4 equals 12. If I say 2, the partner of the factor pair of 2 would be 6. So that's what we do here. If you look at 42, you don't only think of one factor that divides into 42. You must think of the number that multiplies with that one number that equals 42. So 6 and 7 is like a pair, a factor pair, because 6 times 7 equals 42. So that's why when we break up 42 in its factors, you will write in the place of 42, you will say times 6 times 7, because 6 times 7 equals 42. Okay? But if you look at 6, you can actually break up 6 even more, because 6 is a composite number. That means it's got more than 2 factors. Remember, I referred to prime numbers and composite numbers. Prime numbers are the numbers with only 2 factors, 1 in itself, and composite numbers are the numbers with more than 2 factors. Okay. Right, so we're going to break up 6 also. So 6 equals 2 times 3. Okay, so if you look at this, it says 2 times 3 times 7. If you would go and calculate that, 2 times 3 times 7, you'll end up back with 42. Okay, so what's written here is 42 broken up into factors. Okay, right, so then 547 times 2 times 3 times 7. So you read from left to right. So you start with multiplying with 2. So that's why they put that into brackets. If you calculate this 547 times 2, you will end up with 1094. But then you still need to multiply with 3. So that's why they put that into brackets now. So this is the part I have to do first. So times 3, you will get 3,282. Okay, then I still need to times with 7. And now they took a different route to multiply this 4-digit number with a 7. They broke it up into its place value parts. So that's the 3,000, the 200, the 80, and the 2. And all of them are multiplied with 7 separately, and then they added up the answers, and their final answer is 22,974. We're not going to use all these steps, but we are going to stick to the basic rule, and that is to break up the number into its factors and multiply the factors with the first number. Okay, so let's look at examples I have here ready for you. Okay, so now we have working with 315 times 35. So I must break up this number, the 35, into factors. So what multiply with what equals 35? And the first thing I'm thinking of is 5. 5 times 7 equals 35. So instead of saying times 35, I can write times 5 times 7. So that's what I'm going to write here. 315 times 5 times 7. Okay, so this is the same as saying times 35. So I'm not changing the value of the sum. Okay, so now thinking back to of this method, I have to multiply now. So I'm reading from left to right. So I'm going to multiply with a 5 first. You can put that into brackets if you want to. Okay, so now go calculate. If you don't know what this is, you can calculate on the side. So 315 times 5. Here you need to know your tables very well. 5 times 5 is 25. So the unit stays behind and the 10 goes over. 1 times 5 is 5 plus 2 is 7. And 3 times 5 is 15. So this equals 1,575. And I still need to multiply with a 7. Okay, so then I'm also going to do that on the side. 1,575 times 7. So 5 times 7 is 35. The unit stays behind and the 10 goes over. 7 times 7 is 49. Plus 3 is 52. Okay, 5 times 5 is 35 again, plus the 5 is 40. So 0 for the 40 stays behind, and the 10, the 40 goes over. 1 times 7 is 7, plus the 4 is 11. So the final answer is 11,025. Okay, so you can see we've written 315 times 5 times 7. That's the first step. Then we multiply the 5 and the 315. Your answer of that was 1,575. And we still need to multiply with a 7. And then the final answer of 11,025. Okay, so let's do the second example. I need to look at the second number. I'm going to break it up into its factors. 49 equals, and I'm thinking of 7 times 7. Okay, so instead of saying times 49, 724 times 49, I'm going to say times 7 times 7. Okay, then read from left to right. So this part of the sum I'm going to do first. So 724 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28, so the 8 stays behind and the 2 goes over. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 1 is 50. Okay, so that's the answer of multiplying with the first 7. So I'm going to write 5068, and then I still need to multiply with a second 7. So 5068 times 7. Right, so then I calculate again. 8 times 7 is 56. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 5 is 47. 0 times 7, 0 times any number is 0, plus 4 is 4, and then 5 times 7 is 35. So then I have 35,476, and that is my final answer. Okay, so you get your tick for breaking up your number into factors, then for calculating, and then for your final answer. Right, so I hope you understand what I've written here. Please go back in the video to listen to an explanation again, and then I'm going to show you a homework now. Right, so go to the DBE book on page 85, and I would like you to do number 3A and B. Very important note here, use the factor method, not your own. Please don't take shortcuts. You need to get used to this method. So use it, go study it again, practice it, okay? And then when you are done, check your answers with a calculator after completing the work. Right, so now I hope that you will be able to multiply using factors.